My brothers and sisters, there are moments, quiet, painful moments, when we feel like a small boat adrift at sea. The sky is gray, the shore is far, and the silence within us is loud. In those moments, when the world feels too heavy and the path too hidden, I ask you to pause, take a breath, place your hand on your heart. You are not forgotten. You are not alone. You are loved. Let us walk together for a little while, in silence, in hope, and in truth, in pausing. Let us begin. My dear brothers and sisters, before you knew your name, before you had a voice to cry or a hand to reach out, love had already seen you. Before your first step, before your first failure, before your first sorrow, love was already there, quietly waiting, gently holding, tenderly watching over you. We must remember this truth, not with the mind alone, but with the heart, because too many walk through life as though they were forgotten, as though they are unseen, as though their story has no place in the great story of God. But that is not true. That has never been true. There is a passage in the prophet Isaiah that says, I have called you by name, you are mine. And again, can a mother forget her infant, be without tenderness for the child of her womb? Even if she forgets, I will never forget you. These are not mere poetic words. They are promises, sacred promises from a God who sees each of us, not in the way the world sees, with labels and status and success, but with the eyes of mercy, the eyes of a father who delights in his children. When I walk through the streets, whether it is in the crowded markets of cities or the forgotten alleys of villages, often see faces that look down, eyes that avoid meeting mine, shoulders bent under invisible burdens. People carrying the lie that they are not good enough, not important, not loved. And my heart aches, because it is in these very hearts that God has chosen to dwell. It is the poor, the rejected, the broken-hearted who are the dwelling place of divine tenderness. Let us think of the child who grows up never hearing that he is loved. He carries that silence into adulthood, searching for worth in applause, in possessions, in approval. But what he really seeks is what was already his from the beginning: to be known, to be cherished, to be loved for who he is, not for what he can do. And then let us think of the elderly woman who sits in a small apartment, forgotten by family and neighbors, watching the hours pass. Is she any less precious? No. In fact, in the kingdom of God, she is radiant. Jesus did not come to teach us a system. He came to show us the face of the Father, and that face is mercy. He ate with sinners, touched lepers, wept with the grieving, forgave the unforgivable. He never said, "Earn my love." He said, "Come to me." He said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." He said, "Let the little children come to me." In every gesture, he was saying the same thing. You are loved. You belong. You are mine. Sometimes we think we must prove ourselves to be worthy of that love. But Jesus shows us another way, the way of trust, the way of receiving, the way of humility. Let the poor woman who puts 2 small coins in the temple be our teacher. Let the thief on the cross be our example. Let the prodigal son, covered in dust and shame, be our companion. Because they teach us something for the proud. Forget love is not the reward for the perfect. It is the gift of the Father to all his children. And when we begin to believe this, not just with words, but with our lives, something begins to change. We look at others differently. The stranger is no longer a threat, but a brother. The migrant is not a statistic, but a mother fleeing with her child. The prisoner is not condemned forever, but someone longing to be seen, to be forgiven, to be free. When we live from the truth that we are loved, we cannot help but become love for others. So, ask you now, in the silence of your hearting, do you know this love? And not the love of this world that comes and goes like the wind, but the love does not fail. The love that waits even when we run. The love that embraces even when we betray. Take a moment. Close your eyes if you must. Let your heart speak. Listen. You are loved. You have always been loved. And you will always be loved. Not because of what you have done, but because of who you are, a child of God. Let this truth settle in your soul. Let it heal the wound of shame. Let it soften the hardness of fear. Let it give you the courage to live differently, to forgive, to serve, to see others through the eyes of mercy. And when you forget, as we all do, return to the silence, return to the promise, return to the one who waits with arms wide open. You are not lost, you are loved. Now go and remind someone else. My dear friends, there are moments in life when we do not know where we are going. Times when the road disappears beneath our feet and even the sky above seems silent. We feel lost, not just lost in direction, but lost in meaning, in belonging, in hope. It can happen slowly, like a gradual fading of the light, or all at once, like a door slamming shut behind us. We ask, where am I? But more deeply, we are really asking, who am I now? This feeling is more common than we admit. It visits the young woman who moves to a city to find work and ends up isolated far from her family, exhausted from striving, but unsure what it's all for. It haunts the man who has worked his whole life only to retire and wonder if he still has a purpose. It grips the refugee who has lost his home, his land, his language. It even finds its way into the hearts of the faithful in dark nights of doubt and dryness. To feel lost is not a sin. To feel lost is not a failure. It is a deeply human experience, and in that experience, God draws near. When Jesus told the story of the Good Shepherd, he said something radical, something so easy to overlook in its simplicity. He said the shepherd leaves the 99 sheep to go after the one that is lost, not because the one is better, not because the one deserves more, but because the one is missing. And love notices who is missing. The shepherd does not say, it's only one. He does not say, it's their fault. He does not wait for the sheep to find its way back. He goes. He searches. He listens for the faintest cry. And when he finds the lost one, he lifts it up with joy. With joy. That is how God looks at us. Not with condemnation, but with joy at finding what was lost. Sometimes we are the sheep. Sometimes we are the ones wandering, unsure where we are or how to return. And sometimes we are the shepherd's hands. We are the ones called to notice, to search, to lift. I remember speaking with a young man who told me, I've done too much. I've gone too far. I've made too many mistakes. His eyes were filled with shame. But I told him, as I tell you now, there is no distance so great that love cannot cross it. There is no wound so deep that grace cannot heal it. God's mercy is not a drop, it is an ocean. And even if we dive into the depths of our confusion, He dives deeper still. The Gospels are filled with people who were lost. Zacchaeus, who climbed a tree just to see Jesus. Mary Magdalene, who wept at his feet. Peter, who denied him. The Samaritan woman at the well. The thief on the cross. None of them had their lives in order. And yet, Jesus met them right where they were. Not after they had cleaned up. Not after they had figured everything out. But right in the middle of their confusion, their sin, their lostness. That is the heart of the gospel. God comes to find us. We must also ask ourselves, do we notice when others feel lost? The single mother unsure how to feed her child. The elderly man in a crowded parish who no one greets. The teenager struggling with depression, hiding behind a screen. We live in a world where many are wandering, not with their feet, but with their hearts. They are not looking for directions. They are longing for connection. They need someone to say, You matter. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. And perhaps the most courageous thing we can do is admit our own moments of being lost. When we do, we allow others to see that holiness is not about having all the answers. It is about being willing to be found again and again. So if today you feel far from the path, do not be afraid. If the prayers come slow and the silence feels heavy, do not be afraid. If you are carrying guilt or fear or pain that seems too much to bear, do not be afraid. The shepherd is looking for you, and he will not stop until he finds you. Let us then turn toward him, not with perfection, but with honesty. Let us lift our eyes even in the fog. Let us listen for his voice in the stillness. And let us become voices of hope for others. Voices that say gently but firmly, you are not alone. You are not beyond reach. You are not forgotten. You are loved. Come back. Come back to love. And when you are found, become the one who finds others. That is the journey. That is the call. That is the way of the gospel. My dear brothers and sisters, when you feel that you are falling apart inside, when the weight of life seems too heavy, remember this: you do not carry your burdens alone. You are held, sometimes silently, sometimes invisibly, but always tenderly, always with care. In the heart of your suffering, you are not abandoned. You are accompanied. So many people today walk with hidden pain. They smile on the outside, yet inside there are questions, there are wounds, there is fatigue. A mother wakes up before dawn to prepare her children for school, works long hours in a job that barely sustains them, and lies awake at night worrying about tomorrow. A man loses his work and wonders how he will feed his family, his dignity slowly unraveling with each rejection. A teenager feels unworthy because of the cruel words spoken by others and begins to believe the lie that their life doesn't matter. These are not just stories. These are our neighbors. These are the cries of the people Jesus walks with even now. When Jesus looked at the crowds, Scripture tells us he was moved with compassion. He did not see statistics or labels or problems to be solved. He saw sons and daughters. He saw hunger and fear and longing, and he responded not with judgment, with mercy. Always mercy. This is the face of our God, the one who draws near when we suffer, the one who weeps with us, walks with us, listens to our silence, and stays even when we push him away. To carry the cross is not a punishment. It is a sharing in the life of Jesus. He did not flee from suffering, he entered into it. He took the path of the poor, the path of the rejected, the path of the abandoned. He did not come to explain away pain. He came to redeem it, to transform it from within, and that changes everything. There is a small church in a poor village I once visited where the crucifix is worn and broken. The hands of Christ have fallen away, but still the people come. They kneel before him, and they pray not with grand words, but with tears and whispers. One woman said to me, he understands. He knows what it means to suffer. That is faith, pure, humble, honest. That is a kind of faith that brings heaven close to earth. Sometimes we look at our wounds and we think they make us less worthy. But God sees them differently. Our wounds are the places where His grace enters. They make us more human, more compassionate, more open to others. And when we share our wounds, when we listen to the pain of others, we become bridges of healing. We begin to live not only for ourselves, but for one another. Let us not be afraid of brokenness. Let us not run from our weakness. The world tells us to be strong, to be successful, to hide our pain behind achievement. But the gospel tells us something else. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. These are not just beautiful words. They are a revolution of the heart. They are the light that breaks into our darkness. Think of Simon of Cyrene, the man who helped Jesus carry his cross. He was not a disciple, not someone important. He was just passing by. Yet in that moment, he was drawn into the mystery of redemption. He carried not only wood, but the suffering of the Son of God. And so do we, each time we help another carry their burden. Who are the Simons of today? The nurse who holds the hand of the dying, the volunteer who visits the prisoner, the grandparent who prays quietly for their family, the person who forgives, who stays, who loves without being thanked. These are the hidden saints of our time. They are near the heart of Christ because they choose compassion over indifference. If you are hurting today, know this: you are not forgotten. The Lord is close to the broken-hearted. You may not see Him, but He sees you. You may not feel strong, but He is your strength. You may not understand why, but He is with you in the mystery. And sometimes that is enough. So let us be gentle with ourselves and gentler still with others. Let us walk slowly with those who suffer. Let us bring the presence of Christ not with speeches, but with silence, with kindness, with touch. And let us never forgetting, in every moment of pain, love is present. Let your wounds become wells of mercy. Let your pain become prayer. Let your suffering unite you not only with Christ, but with all who suffer. And may we walk this journey not alone, but together, always in love. My dear friends, sometimes when we feel most lost, what we truly long for is not answers, but presence, a presence that stays, a presence that listens, a presence that embraces. And though the world rushes forward, full of noise and demands, love remains a quiet voice calling us back, not to perfection, not to performance, but to communion, communion with God, communion with one another. In the gospel, we see again and again how Jesus sits at tables, not with the powerful, but with the poor, not with the righteous, but with sinners. He does not build walls. He breaks them down. He touches the untouchable. He eats with those others reject. This is no small detail. This is the heart of the gospel. God comes close to us not in splendor, but in simplicity, not in judgment, but in mercy, not from above, but from beside. And yet, how often do we forget this? How often do we fall into the trap of isolation, of imagining that we must walk alone? The enemy of our souls wants to convince us that we are too broken to be loved, too far gone to be welcomed, too sinful to belong. But the truth is far different. The truth is that love waits for us, not with crossed arms, but with open ones. I remember once meeting a woman who had spent many years in prison. She told me with tears in her eyes that the hardest part was not the bars or the confinement. It was the silence, the sense that no one remembered her name, that her life had no meaning. But one day, a group of volunteers from a small parish came. They sat with her. They prayed with her. They brought no sermons, only presence. And she said, for the first time in years, I felt like I existed again. How many people today live in that silence? How many are crying out? Not always with words, but with loneliness, with addiction, with despair. And how many wait for someone to see them, to really see them, not for what they've done or what they lack, but for who they are, really a child of God. God. We are not meant to walk this life alone. From the very beginning, the scriptures tell us it is not good for man to be alone. We were created for communion. That is why the church is not just a building or structure. It is a family. It is a home for the lost, a refuge for the weary, a hospital for sinners. And yet, we must ask ourselves, have we made it so? Do we open the doors of our hearts? Do we make space at our tables? Do we truly welcome the stranger? Or do we prefer the comfort of familiarity? The gospel pushes us beyond our circles, beyond our comfort zones, beyond the walls we build in our hearts. It calls us to walk together, not with judgment, but with compassion. Let us think of the road to Emmaus. Two disciples walking, confused, disappointed, unsure of everything they believed. And Jesus joins them, though they do not recognize him. He listens. He walks at their pace. He asks questions. He stays for supper. And in the breaking of the bread, they recognize him. This is how love reveals itself. Through presence, through patience, through sharing the journey. Each of us is called to be a companion on someone's Emmaus road, not to fix them, not to lecture them, but to walk with them, to listen, to stay, to break bread together. Sometimes a silence speaks more than words. Sometimes a gentle touch says more than a sermon. Let us remember the poor, the elderly, the migrant, the sick, the prisoner, the forgotten. Let us see them not as problems, but as brothers and sisters. Let us go to them not as saviors, but as fellow travelers, as guests who also need grace. For in serving them, we find Christ. In embracing them, we embrace ourselves. In loving them, we learn what it means to truly live. And if you are the one feeling alone today, know this: you are part of this family. You belong. You are not forgotten. The Lord Himself walks with you. Even when you do not recognize Him, He draws near. He listens to your heart, and in the quiet, He whispers again and again, "You are mine. You are loved. You are never alone." So let us live as one body. Let us refuse to leave anyone behind. Let us be the presence that others are praying for. And may our homes, our parishes, our hearts become places of welcome, where no one is unseen, where all can rest, and where love, humble, patient, persistent love, makes all things new. My dear brothers and sisters, there is a quiet courage in beginning again. There is a sacred strength in getting up after we have fallen, in opening our hearts after they have been wounded, in choosing to hope when everything around us whispers despair. And in those moments, we may not feel strong, we may not feel ready, but grace does not wait for us to be ready. Grace meets us where we are, gently, quietly, without demand, but with the persistent voice of love saying, "Come, begin again." This is the message of the gospel. Nothing is ever truly lost in God, not our dignity, not our worth, not our future. There is no failure that defines us more than God's mercy. There is no one deeper than His healing love. There is no sin, no shame, no sorrow that can separate us from the gaze of the Father who runs to meet us while we are still far off. We all know the story of the prodigal son. It is a story we return to again And again, because it is not just a parable, it is our story. We have all known the hunger of that young man, the emptiness of wandering far from home, the loneliness of believing we are no longer worthy to be called sons or daughters. But how does the Father respond? Not with punishment, not with questions, not even with conditions. He embraces, He clothes, He restores, and He celebrates. In that embrace, we discover the miracle of new beginnings, not because we deserve it, not because we have done everything right, but because we are loved, loved beyond what we can imagine, loved not for what we have achieved, but because we are His. Sometimes we forget this. Sometimes the voice of the world is louder than the voice of the gospel. The world tells us we are what we produce, what we achieve, what we look like. It rewards the successful, the popular, the powerful. But Jesus does not walk with the powerful. He walks with the poor. He walks, lifts the broken. He sits with the rejected. And He calls each of us not by our failure, but our name. There is a man I once met on the outskirts of a large city. He lived under a bridge. He had lost everything, his job, his home, even contact with his family. He said to me, I feel invisible, like I died and no one noticed. But then he added something remarkable. He said, there is an old woman who passes by every morning. She brings me a piece of bread and calls me figlio, my son. And then every time she says that, I feel human again. That is the power of love. That is the beginning of resurrection. A small gesture, words spoken with tenderness, can bring someone back to life. We must never underestimate the power of mercy, of kindness, of seeing someone who feels unseen. Jesus did not come to save the righteous. He came for those who were lost, for those who felt they had no way back. And to each of them, and to us, He says, get up, take heart, I am with you. He says it to the woman caught in sin, to the man blind from birth, to the leper no one will touch, to the thief on the cross. Always the same message. You are not beyond love. You are not beyond hope. Begin again with me. Let us not be afraid to start anew. Let us not believe the lie that we are too broken, too far gone, too weary. The love of Christ is greater, always greater, and in that love, every day is a new beginning. Maybe your heart has grown cold. Maybe your faith has become dry. Maybe you carry a secret burden that no one sees. Bring it to Him. Bring it to the one who says, behold, I make all things new. You do not need to be perfect. You need only to open the door. And let us also be the ones who help others begin again. Let us be builders of bridges, not walls. Let us offer not judgment, but mercy. Let us remind those around us, especially those who are suffering, forgotten, or ashamed, that it is never too late to return to love. So, my dear friends, when you feel lost, remember it is not the end. Love is still calling you. Grace is still reaching for you. The Father still waits with arms wide open. Begin again. Begin again with courage. Begin again with hope. Begin again with Him. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I say to you from the depths of a heart that shares in joys and your wounds, I never be afraid to return to love. Never be afraid to hope again, to dream again, to trust that God has not forgotten you. Even when you feel furthest from Him, He is closest. Even in your darkest hour, His light is still shining quietly, waiting to guide you home. You are not your failures. You are not the voices that tell you're not enough. You are not the shame that clings to your past. You are a beloved child. You are cherished. You are called. And you are held, always held, by a mercy that never lets go. Let us walk forward, not with fear, but with faith. Let us carry this truth to others, to those who feel alone, to those who are hurting, to those who have forgotten how to begin again. Let our hands be the hands of Christ. Let our words bring healing. Let our hearts burn with the compassion. Go now and live this love with courage. Go now and remind someone that they are seen, that they are valuable, that they matter. And if you feel weak, remember God does His greatest work in those who feel small. He writes His story of hope in the lives of the humble, the broken, the willing. So I bless you as you go forward. May you carry peace. May you speak with kindness. May you love without limits. Good luck on the journey ahead. And from my heart to yours, thank you. Thank you for listening, for opening your heart, and for daring to believe once more in the power of love. Thank you, and may God bless you always.